On this page, page 4, there are only algebra-related problems for mean, median, mode. Um, Not too many of the exam problems have mean, median, mode, but occasionally you're going to get one. And so if you are shooting for a 7 on the IB exam, then you definitely want to practice these. On this first problem, we get 14 numbers. And they give us all 14 numbers except for two of the numbers. They don't give us S and T. The other thing they tell us about S and T is S is less than T. So they're not the same number. Then they give us some information about the mode, the median, and the mean. The mode is 5, it says. If we look at how many 5s we have 2 5s. We also have 2 12s. We also have 2 1s. So 5 right now, assuming that S and T are not part of the distribution, 5 is not the mode because there's the same number of 1s, there's 2 1s, there's 2 5s, there's 2 12s. So in order for 5 to be the mode, either S or T would have to be a 5. Um, because there need to be at least 3 5s for 5 to be the mode. Um, so that's one thing we learned. We already know that one of the missing numbers is 5. The other thing it tells us is the median is 6. If the median is 6, that means that 7 numbers are below 6 and 7 numbers are above 6. So let's see how many numbers right now are below 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. If S is a 5, then we'll say that that's also below 6. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so right now, um, 7 of the numbers are below 6, as long as S is 5, for example. Okay, so that means that the other numbers, which are 7, 8, 9, 10, T 12, 12, are above 6. So that works out, right? And if the two middle numbers here are 5 and 7, then halfway between 5 and 7 is 6. And that's the reason why the median is 6, although there is no 6 in the distribution. Because when you don't have a middle number, what they do is they took the two middle numbers and then they take the average. So the average of 5 and 7 is 6. Okay, so that means that if S is 5, then T is going to be, you know, greater than 7. Okay, and then the last thing we find out is that the mean is 6.5. So that should be, now that we know that S is 5, we should be able to figure out T from the fact that the mean is 6.5. And there's a couple ways you could do that. If you don't want to do it with algebra, what you could do is you could guess the value of, T. And I'll show you how to do that first. I'm going to first type all the numbers into the calculator, and then we'll continue. Using StatEdit, I've typed all 14 of the numbers in here. And instead of typing a T, which I can't type in, I typed the number 10 because that's my first guess as to what T might be. It doesn't ever say that T is between 10 and 12, but it kind of looks like it is from the way they arranged it. So that means the possibilities for T would be 10, 11, or 12. And we know it's not 12. The reason why is because we just said that the mode is 5, and there are 3 5s. If there were 3 12s, then the mode would not be clearly 5, so 12 is eliminated. So right now we're guessing between 10 and 11. So I put 10 in first. Let's see if that works out. So we'll go stat. We're just going to do a stat calc. And then the list is in L1, and we're going to go down to calculate, see what we get. We get that the mean x bar is 6.428, and we were looking for 6.5, so that doesn't seem to be right. Let's try stat edit, and then we'll try, instead of 10 for the third to the last value, we're going to put 11. Stat calc Calculate. Now it gives us 6.5. So our guess of 11 is correct. The other way you would do this with algebra would be that you would use the formula to get the mean. You know the formula to get the mean, right? You add up all these numbers, and then you divide by the number of numbers, which is 14. So we do 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus, and we don't know what t is, right? So if we added up all these numbers and we don't know what t is, and then we divide it by 14, that will give us 6.5. So now we could do this with algebra because we can add up all these numbers besides t. It would give us 80. And if you did that in your calculator, you would be able to see that real quick. So we have 80 plus t divided by 14 equals 6.5. And then we would isolate t. To isolate t, we multiply both sides by 14. And then that gives us 80 plus t, and 14 times 6.5 is 91. So you can see that subtracting 80 from both sides, we get t equals 11, which is what we got when we guessed between 10 and 11. Okay, so those are the two ways that you can figure out what t is. All right, now we're going to go down to number 5. Jin obtained marks of 76, 54, and 65 in his physics, biology, and history examinations, respectively. When they say respectively, that means in the same order. So physics, he got a 76, biology, he got a 54, and history, he got a 65. Calculate his mean mark for the 3 examinations. Now we are just going to use the calculator to find the mean mark. So we're going to go to Stat, Edit, and then we're going to put the numbers into list 2. So I've put those 3 test scores into list 2. And then I'm going to use Stat, Calc, and I'm going to put list 2 here. And the mean, x bar, is 65. Okay. Find the mark that Jin must achieve in math so that the mean mark for the 4 examinations is exactly 68. Okay, so now we need to add one more test score to our edit list. And the first way we could do this is we could guess. Okay, we could guess numbers for the math test until the calculator gives us 68. So we'll do a few guesses, and you can see that since 68 is a higher mean than 65, he would have to get a score that is above 65 and above 68 in order to get an average of 68. So let's try first a guess of 70. Let's say he gets 70 on the math test. See what that gives us. And that gives us a 66.25. So then we're just going to guess a slightly higher value. I just made a couple more guesses, and when I guessed 75 for his math grade, I got a 67.5 for the average. Now I'm getting really close, right? So maybe I will do like a 76, or maybe a 77, or maybe a 78. Let me try 78. Oh, I went over a little bit too much. So instead of 78, I'm going to put 77. Do you see how, since you have the calculator to do this, guessing is not completely inefficient, especially if you're not so good at algebra. So x bar is 68 here. Oh, we got it. So we get guessed that if the math score was 77, that it would give us a 68. And we did that just by guessing a few numbers. I guessed like 75, then I guessed 78, and then I guessed 77. Okay, so guessing 3 or 4 times, I got the right answer. Now, how would you do this with algebra? You would just say, okay, the formula for averages, if I add up the 4 scores, including the unknown math score, and divide it by the number of scores, 4, then that gives me the average that I want, which is 68. So then we just combine these 3 scores, and that would give us a total of 195 plus m divided by 4 equals 68. And then I'll just like multiply both sides by 4 to isolate the m. 4 times 68 would be about 272. 195 plus m, subtract 195 from both sides, and that gives me m equals 77, which is the same result we got when we guessed. Okay, so that's how you find it with algebra. Now, I think this is the last one. Number 6, Zoe and Shun compared their test scores. Zoe had a mean of 81 after taking 5 tests, and Shun had a mean of 78 after taking 3 tests. Each of them took one more test and ended up with the same mean score of 80. Do you see why I'm writing in the denominators these numbers? It's because I'm writing the number of tests that they took to get that mean score. A, find the grade that Zoe gained on her 6th test. Find the grade that Shun gained on his 4th test. It might seem like you don't have enough information to do this problem because in the end, they never told you the first 5 test scores that Zoe got or the first 3 test scores that Shun got. So it's like, well, if I don't know the test scores, how am I supposed to figure out what the 4th test score for Shun is or the 6th test score for Zoe? And the thing is that once you know the average of the first 5 tests or the first 3 tests, you don't need to know the exact scores of the first 5 tests or the first 3 tests. Okay? So, like, for example, the easiest thing to do is to assume that Zoe got the same test score on every one of her 5 exams. So, let's assume that she always got 81. That's like the easiest combination of test scores that gives you an average of 81, 5 81s. And Shun, if he got 3 78s, then his average would also be 78. So if you assume that the individual test scores are just the average test score, then it makes it pretty easy to calculate the last one, because on the last one, you're basically saying, okay, the 6th test score you don't know, but the first 5 test scores are 81. So you just take 81 plus 81 plus 80, etc. And then that gives you a total of 405, I think. So 405 plus the last test score for Zoe, I'll call it Z, divided by 6 is equal to 80. And the first 3 test scores of 78, multiply that by 3, and we get 210 plus 24, which is 232, plus S, divided by 4 is 80. So now we just use algebra, so we multiply both sides by 6. That gives us 480 here. That gives us 405 plus Z here. Z is equal to 480 minus 405. 480 minus 405. And so we know that Zoe's sixth test was a 75. And so what about Sean's fourth test? 320, 232 plus S minus 232 minus 232. And that gives us about a 68, 88. S equals 88. So Shun's last test was an 88. That brought his average up to an 80. Zoe's sixth test was a 75. That brought her average down to an 80 from an 81. Okay? And again, you could do this problem with a form of guessing. I mean, if you just do stat edit, and I'm going to put these in list 3, I could put like 81 5 times. Oops. I put 81 5 times, and then of course that would give me an average of 81 for the 5 test scores. If I put a 6 test score to see how I could get an 80, I could just guess numbers until I get there. So I could guess 79 first because I know it would have to be a number that's less than the new average, and then I'll go stat, calc, and then I'll put in L3 because this time it's going to be L3 because I put it in L3, right? And it gives me an average of 80.66. It's not down to an 80 yet. So then I would just keep lowering my guess until finally I got an X bar of 80, and then I figured it out. So you can see that whenever you have a mean median mode problem where normally they're expecting to use algebra, you could use repeated guessing to get the unknown in most cases. So don't panic if you get this on test and you know you're not good at algebra. You do have the calculator, and maybe you might be able to guess the answer in a few guesses and still get the problem right. Now, I wouldn't do that, and I would kind of save that problem for the end because you don't want to spend too much time guessing on a problem when you have other problems that you might be able to do quickly.